DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse, is the one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW has what you need, but more importantly, they have what you didn't even know you wanted. You never know what you'll find at DSW. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
I was never broken. It was only my perception that was broken. And when I heard that, it was like an aha moment for me. Everything started to shift when I heard that sentence and realized that I was and have always been worthy, independent of the diagnosis, relationship, job, or income.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast, episode number 698 with guest Michele Capots. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you are here. I have another book coming out December 9th, 2025. Live Like You Give a Damn is going to be released into the wild December 9th, 2025. And pre-orders are available now. You can order it now. If you feel like pushing a button and spending, it's definitely under $20. I'm not sure the exact price. It depends on where you get it from and if you're in the United States or Canada or wherever. But if you go to any of your apps that you buy books, any of them, you should be able to find it. Live Like You Give a Damn by Andrea Owen. Or if you go to my website, all these links will be in the show notes too. AndreaOwen.com, LLYGAD, Live Like You Give a Damn. I would appreciate it so much. Pre-orders are important to authors because it is the only metric we have that tells publishers, bookstores, big chain corporations that sell books, if this is a book that is worthy of ordering more or of banking on it. I know it sounds terrible, but that's the way that it works. I've been honest about that since my second book came out. I was like, why am I not just telling people the reason that am I supposed to gatekeep this information? It didn't feel right to me. So I've been honest with y'all from my second book about why pre-orders are so important to us. It's very nerve-wracking for authors. And so when we can see pre-orders happening, those metrics are so important to us. And honestly, like the longevity of our careers. So no pressure. You don't have to spend any money. I will still love you. I will still thank you. I will still be grateful for your support. I'm grateful that you guys come and listen to the podcast. But if you are interested in Live Like You Give a Damn, then pre-orders are available. It will be released on December 9th. Thank you very much for that. Also, I am still planning on a retreat next year in 2026 to go to Rhythmia in Costa Rica and take a group of you to do some ayahuasca ceremonies and have an amazing week at the beautiful Rhythmia Life Advancement Center. So DM me on Instagram. I'm Hey Andrea Owen over there, or you can email us support@AndreaOwen.com. I think fairly soon I am going to have a page on the website where all the information is going to be there. So stay tuned for that. And let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. I am really excited for you to hear about Michele. And before I tell you a little bit about her, next week is part 2 of Decentering Men. The episode I did last week, I mentioned it's in 2 parts. So yes, part 2 will be released next Wednesday if you're listening to this in real time. All right, today's guest. Michele Capots is a transformational coach, international speaker, and storyteller on the power of mental wellness and resilience, and her essays on mental health have appeared in Newsweek, The Washington Post magazine, Marie Claire, among others. Michele vulnerably shares from the perspective of her own self-stigma that followed her after a mental illness diagnosis more than a decade ago, until she learned how to use those very things to set her free. A sought-after speaker and thought leader, she also shares her insights and lessons around shame, self-worth, resilience, and mental wellness, which involves so much more than just good mental health. So without further ado, here is Michele. Michele, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have this conversation. And I will, transparency. This is our second time doing this because I had a tech problem and lost our original conversation, which I felt terrible about and had to come clean with you. So I just want to extra appreciate you coming back on to have a similar conversation that we had before, but we have both decided that this one's going to be even better.
Absolutely. Yes. No worries. I'm glad to be here.
I would love for you to tell your story of how you got here, more specifically around you were diagnosed with depression at a fairly young age and then made a choice in terms of your alcohol intake. So can you start us there? And is that what brought you to doing this work for a living?
Eventually, it's what brought me to doing this work for a living. Drinking and depression have always been intertwined for me. To this day, I don't know which came first. Did I drink because I was depressed, or was I depressed so I drank? In the end, I know it doesn't really matter, but at that time, I just wanted something, anything to blame my depression on other than me. When I was diagnosed, I couldn't work. Mm-hmm. I barely got out of bed for 2 months. I stopped functioning and I was suicidal. That depression was actually my rock bottom and what got me sober. Okay. It gave me a brand new way of life. And today I'm coming up on 3 decades of sobriety. What I didn't know was that was just the beginning. 5 years later, I'm sober. I'm living with a man I want to marry. Mm-hmm. I'm working at a national magazine. I'm checking off the boxes in my head. I feel like my life is taking off. And I'd find myself pacing back and forth on a busy interstate, wearing Tasmanian devil boxer shorts mm-hmm. that were sliding off my legs, a t-shirt ripped all the way up to my left breast. Mm-hmm. I was barefoot, my dog beside me who wasn't on a leash. In that moment, I decided to do something that I'd only seen work in the movies, and I stuck out my thumb. Nobody would stop.
To hitchhike, for people who are too young to remember. The people used to do that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
To hitchhike, but nobody would stop. So that day, I went down to a place I'd never been before. I went down to a place of despair, and I went down to a place of shame. When I was taken to the hospital for my first psych ward, that is when I first started to walk, to crawl. And then that crawl became a walk. And then what felt like a lifetime later, but it was only 2 years, it became a run. And now I'm able to stand proud and tall because that experience taught me just how resilient I am. And it taught me that hopelessness can turn around and be a superpower when you have hope. But the biggest thing it taught me is that there's an I in illness and a we in wellness. And it was that created a commitment and a mission in me to want to help others to find freedom in their own life. My mental health is what started me, was the catalyst mm-hmm. that started me on this journey.
I knew the parts of your story, but I didn't know that they were so close together when that happened. And also, it's now I'm just realizing, so you're around my age, and so the 90s, it was more than just a decade of cool music and, dark brown lipstick that we all wore. It was also a time, at least in my experience, where mental health and mental illnesses were not talked about yet. So my father was diagnosed with depression and got sober in 1993, which was the year I graduated high school. That was a big deal. I didn't understand it. I was, an older teenager, but I felt the shame, like as a young girl who had a father who had depression and also didn't understand why I didn't understand it. It was not talked about. And so for you, I'm assuming like that was in the 90s when you had the depression, not only the depression, but then it sounds like a bit of a psychotic break. I don't know how it was clinically described, but I imagine that you even just asking for help back in those early days was a monumentous task to do.
I knew nothing about depression when I was diagnosed. My mother didn't know what to do. She had never experienced anything like it. And all of that brought on a level of shame. I didn't want to talk to anybody because I didn't want to admit where I was. It wasn't talked about then. It wasn't as widely discussed.
You also use the term self-stigma. Can you talk about that? Because I think that what you're describing is sort of pointing to it. And how do you talk about it now in terms of like helping your clients, the self-stigma?
Self-stigma, to break it down, is when an individual internalizes negative stereotypes or judgments or societal stigma about a condition they live with. So we're talking about mental health, but self-stigma can affect weight stigma, addiction stigma, age stigma, gender stigma. And it's just when an individual turns that inward on themselves and believes those negative things are true about them. Self-stigma and self-worth are also interchanged because they both consumed me for many years. It led me to believe that I can't.
Okay.
So it led me to believe that I couldn't have the life I wanted because I wasn't smart enough or capable enough or strong enough. It perpetually was this little voice in my head that you can't. You can't have those things. The one thing that started to change everything is when I heard this sentence and truly understood it at my core, which is the basis for the self-worth and identity work I do today. But it was, I was never broken. It was only my perception that was broken. And when I heard that, it was like an aha moment for me. Everything started to shift when I heard that sentence and realized that I was and have always been worthy, independent of the diagnosis, relationship, job, or income. And those outside triggers, and I call them triggers, couldn't hold me back because I could see it didn't mean anything about me.
It's almost like, because I love a good metaphor. It's almost like handing someone eyeglasses that are shattered, like the lenses are shattered and broken, and then having them go to an art museum to look at all the pieces of art. And like, they're going to say, they're all broken, like all the pieces of art are broken. And then telling them like, actually, it's just the lens that you're looking at it through is the thing that's broken.
I love that.
Sometimes it's a little too simple to put metaphors on it. And sometimes it can be life-changing for people. So that's why I always like to.
No, I love that. It is true. The lens that I was looking through is what was broken, and realizing that it wasn't about me, that it didn't have anything to do with me, that it was just the mind was life altering.
I love that. And so it's similar to how so my kind of core belief is different than yours, but it's also kind of similar. So mine isn't that I don't think that quote unquote, those things are for me. I do think that I deserve love and a great life and, partners that are supportive and blah, 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 blah. However, wah, wah, wah. I have a core belief that the people who are showing up don't really mean it. Like that they're just humoring me, that it's the rug is going to get pulled out from under me. And then this is, I mean, it's so textbook of like what happened in early childhood for me in terms of kind of like smoke and mirrors type of thing, disillusionment, as my therapist likes to call it. So for me, it was about learning that the truth is that there are, so at the core of my belief was like, they're all going to hurt me. Like that, that's it. Even if when I let them in, they're going to hurt me. If they love me, they are going to hurt me. And for me, the realization I had to come to was that very well might be true because I can't control other people's behaviors. So what my work is trusting that it's all about trusting that they do actually feel the way that they are telling me, and they might end up disappointing me or hurting me. And that is up to my resilience. So it's like, it's sort of similar in that like, oh, you just have this, just to do this one tweak in your thinking in order to change everything. And that's, again, just like you said, easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love what you just said too, because it's not just about trusting them for you. It's not just about trusting them, but then it's trusting yourself
Exactly.
that you'll get through it no
Right.
matter what happens.
Yeah.
And that's back to your resilience. Absolutely.
Right. Because my nervous system believes that that's not going to happen. Like I cannot trust myself that I will, that I'm going to die if these hard things happen. Well, speaking of feeling like you're going to die when hard things happen, a lot of people listening, and I'm sure your clients, they get stuck in patterns, just like you and I have. They have the awareness of the patterns and they know that they're not serving them and they just can't seem to break free from it. And you may have already spoken to this, but I would love for you to speak a little bit more about like what's often the missing piece in their transformation. Like, can you speak to that? And it may be more complicated.
Many of our beliefs and patterns go back to before we were 7. Those get adopted at such an early age. And then here we are as adults still acting and living out those patterns, which we've outgrown or may even be harmful for us. The first step is bringing that to light, being aware of what those patterns are in our lives. I do a lot of somatic work with clients and on myself.
Can you say what that is for people that might not know that term?
Sure. So it's body work.
Okay.
It's just being able to feel those things in your body and allowing it to be there with presence. So for example, it may be tension or contraction and noticing where in the body that shows up, because our bodies hear everything our minds say. We can shrink in those and stay in those contractions. But if we allow ourselves, we can let it move through and release it.
Mm-hmm. I see that a lot with women and anger. So which anytime, well, not anytime, but I think like most times they have resentment, there's probably anger there, or at least it's brewing. And I know a lot of people have resentments. So that is one that I find that keeps, especially women, stuck because we've been socialized to not display any anger. And so especially not feel any anger because it can be scary, or maybe it was modeled for us growing up and it is still very scary. And so I could see how, and it's interesting, like because when I think of somatic work, I immediately think of things like EMDR or breath work or yoga, but it's also feeling your feelings. It's the
Absolutely.
basics.
Absolutely. Breathwork is a big one. Breathwork is a big one with somatic and yoga. And there's exercises that you can also do that help to release the stuck energy in the body. Giving yourself a self hug is something that can release it. But yes, there's exercises you can do to practice releasing somatically, but also working with someone to identify where those issues are in the body and being able to remember what was associated with them and let them go is very powerful.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to ask you about the circumstance that happened when you found yourself hitchhiking on the freeway. And I want to tie that back into something you just said. So we'll be right back. This show is sponsored by MIDI Health. Let's be real. Midlife healthcare for women, historically trash. If you've been told, like I have, it's just aging or you'll be fine when you're not sleeping, you're sweating through your sheets, or feeling like a stranger in your own body, you are very much not alone. Even today, 75% of women seeking menopause or perimenopause care are left untreated. That's not okay. But there's good news. It's time for MIDI. MIDI is a women's telehealth clinic founded by experts in midlife health, and they actually listen. You get one-on-one, face-to-face care tailored to your unique needs. And they're the only women's telehealth brand covered by major insurance, making expert care accessible and affordable. From hormone therapy to weight loss support and lifestyle coaching, MIDI has your back. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Okay, we're back. At the very beginning of the show, you were talking about 5 years after you got sober, you found yourself, you were suddenly conscious and found you were on the side of the freeway trying to hitchhike, ripped up clothes. Your dog is with you, not on a leash. And then you were also talking about doing somatic work in order to heal. I wonder if so all these years later, when you think back on that time in your life, you know, I'm assuming you had been treated for your depression, you'd been sober for 5 years, but can you look back at that time and sort of pinpoint perhaps what caused you to kind of quote unquote break to get there? Was it something that was missing from your treatment or something else?
You know, these things never happened you don't wake up one day hitchhiking on the side of the road and you don't wake up one day depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's many factors that contribute to it. And for some, it can be burnout. It can be working around the clock. It can be not exercising or taking care of yourself. And those things just start to add up and add up and add up. And the message is you begin telling yourself in the mind. And when that goes on too long, that can be the result. For me, sleep was a big one. The episode, the psychotic break on the side of the road, I hadn't slept in a couple of days. And sleep was a really big factor that I wasn't paying attention to. And I'd also had signs of depression again that those 5 years later that I was trying to pretend weren't happening. And then everything just catapulted into the perfect storm. And that's what happened. But I think there's always warning signs along the way. And the point is to be self-aware and diligent in asking yourself, doing a self-check.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you were answering that question, it made me think about how much of our growth, especially if you're looking back, if you have the ability like you and I do to look back on decades of personal growth and transformation. And I can definitely pinpoint, even over just the last 5 years for me, different periods of time where I felt like almost a complete identity shift, where there's been a lot of change. And I think, and when I talk about this, I always make sure and point out that oftentimes there's grief there, leaving behind an old version of ourselves that we've gotten so patterned and used to. And so, given what you do for a living, how do you help clients navigate the grief that can come with letting go of an old version of themselves?
That is the transformation in being able to let go of the self that is keeping you stuck and shed those layers so that you can step into a new way of being. And the thing I've learned, and I'll get to your question, but the thing I learned about transformation is it's not a one and done. It's not that you go through this once. Because we're always evolving, I see transformation as a lifelong process of becoming. So when it comes to the grief of letting that go, a lot of times people want to avoid that, or I have found that clients want to avoid that. You don't want to feel that grief. You'll try to push it down or not pay attention to it or misunderstand it because you're stepping into what you're reaching for, what you're transforming toward is better than where you've been, but you don't, the uncertainty.
It's unfamiliar.
Exactly.
A stranger.
You can't see what's over here. So it's terrifying to let go of that. It's terrifying to take that step forward and let go of everything that has been comfortable and familiar. So it's really showing yourself grace in that and feeling it, letting yourself experience the grief and feel the grief and cry and release and let it go so that you can step into who you are becoming without any of that. You can't get from here to here without experiencing that transition, without going through that messy middle, for lack of a better word, to get there.
I call that the liminal space.
Oh, I like that.
I do too. And it just is, the more, honestly, like the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, is this going to be like, is this going to be my next book? I just think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Like we talk about like the story that got us here, like to your transformation, and then the end result, the messy middle, the liminal space isn't as sexy, like, because there's no real polarity for us to look at. It's not a redemption story. It's not a rags to riches story. Like, we skip over the middle. That is really where all the emotions are. That's where all the learning is and the wisdom is. Like, you don't get it when you arrive, and you don't have it yet when you're at the other place. Like, you get it when you're passing through the tunnel or the bridge, like whatever you want to call it. And I love that you said, so compassion, like you have to give yourself grace during that time because it can be long. This last one that I've been going through, it was years long. I nicknamed it the longest sunrise. Did a podcast episode about it because I was like, what is taking so long? I am an Aries. Like, we don't go slow. I like my transformations fast. And this one has proved, I don't know if it's middle age or what, has proved to be a lot slower. And so I think that like, if we can hold that place with almost with reverence at best, but at the very least with grace and compassion, you're going to be so much better off. And it's just more comfy to go through it that way.
Yeah. The self-compassion is huge. And to say, and to not judge yourself for it, because it can be so easy in those spaces to judge those feelings or to judge what you're going through. Or like you just said, to judge that it's taking so long. Why am I not there? What you just said, the breakthrough, the lessons, the wisdom, all of that is not at the end result. The purpose is not the destination. It's who you become as you're reaching the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a few years ago, I really understood that.
If someone is listening to this and they sort of know that they need a change, and, you know, maybe it's they're stuck with like old family of origin beliefs, or they love personal development so much and they kind of like their intuition is saying like, you are ready for a transformation, but they're like, I don't know where to start. So if they're feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start, what would your best advice be for them looking for their first step?
One of the things is getting clear on the patterns and beliefs that are holding you back. So you can be ready for a transformation, but subconsciously not know what is preventing you from being able to take that step. The second part of what I do is the acceptance, then, is being able to accept those parts of ourselves and really allow them to be here and understand them and not try to immediately get rid of them. Because a lot of times those parts of us served us.
Mm-hmm.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
They're not
works until
bad.
it doesn't.
Exactly. They're not bad parts of ourselves. They've served us in some capacity, and we want to be able to thank them for everything that they've done up to that point in getting us to where we need to go. But then it's being able to say, I got this. A lot of that is inner child work. And it's not, in that sense, it's not getting in a way, is not letting go of that inner child, but being able to show them, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go here now. I can carry you the rest of the way.
Yeah, that second part, what you just talked about, was hugely helpful in terms of healing some trauma that had been circling for me for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that transformation through ketamine treatment, which was incredibly helpful for me. I know it's not for everyone, but it was just that. It was for me, it came through like a dream when I was in ketamine, of seeing different versions of myself, younger versions of myself, and realizing in that moment, it was so emotional and profoundly somatic experience of my present self, this age, having a conversation with them as if they were my daughters, and telling them like, oh my, you have been carrying this for so long and you don't need to anymore. Like, you can set it all down and rest. Like, I've got it. I have the experience and resilience and love and everything that is necessary in order to take this from you. And like, life-changing experience. And so I say all that to like underscore that work. But yeah, first you need to figure out what the patterns are that are getting you there before you can do that work. We need to take one more ad break. And when we get back, I want to ask you a little bit more about sleep and rest, because that's an important theme. So we'll be right back.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast Gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast Gems.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Okay. You talked about sleep being like you suspect that was a bit of a catalyst for the breakdown that you had a few decades ago. And I know that rest has become, it's having a moment in personal growth in the wellness world. And I could not be happier. Like, we need to talk about it more than we do, especially like in a capitalistic system where rest, what are you, lazy? So how do you talk about rest and sleep as part of your practice and your coaching?
Many things I've heard from clients is because we have become such a go, 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 go society that doing more is what we need to be doing, that we feel guilty if we rest. We feel guilty if we slow down. We feel like we're being left behind if we slow down. What I have found is, and this was a really, really important distinction for me and something that I still have to practice in my own life on a regular basis, is, and I heard this from my mentor, I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's not just do, but it's the balance between doing and being. So instead of do, it becomes do. Like
a song.
Just like the song. And when that goes off in my head, like it'll go off in my head when I realize that I'm focusing too much on getting things done and not enough of just being, which is slowing down. To the rest also includes for me meditation or tapping or being able to do these things that'll calm the mind and then also help to produce sleep because I am then calm. In talking about rest, the being part is also important when it comes to rest and allowing yourself the time to slow down and just be. And when you do that, it helps promote rest then when you lay down to go to sleep.
You're creating a new habit.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, I just looked at the clock and it went by so fast. But before we close up, is there anything else that you want to share with us, or even that you want to go back and underscore before we tell everyone where to go to learn more about you?
One thing I do want to add, that a lot of my work is focused on mental wellness. So there's a difference between the two, mental health and mental wellness, and they often get lumped together and people just throw them together as one, but they're not. It's the mental wellness that I focus on, and you never need to have a mental health challenge to strive for mental wellness. That's not a prerequisite. And for some, it's the things we talked about, the eating right, the getting enough sleep, but it's really the integration of the body and mind and the awareness of our thoughts that I think is so important when it comes to mental wellness and the difference between mental health.
And that sounds like it's a signature of your work.
Absolutely.
And I love that so much. And how important, like, it seems to me that people define that for themselves, like what their own mental wellness looks like, and probably, move mountains with that once you know that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So where can people go to find more about your work? And of course, we'll have these links in the show notes.
So you can find me on my website, which is michelecapots.com, and Michele is with one L, pet peeve. Michele is with one L. So michelecapots.com, and you can find me on Instagram, which is michelecapots.com, spelled out DOTCOM. So michelecapots.com on Instagram. And I'm also on Substack. I don't know how many of your listeners are on Substack.
Yeah, probably a decent amount. Yeah.
I have posts on Substack, and that's michelecapots.substack.com. and I post there weekly. And also, very quickly, on my website, there's a series of mental wellness tools and a meditation that you can also use to promote mental wellness and connecting with the mind and body and staying in the present moment. There's a free thing on there as well.
Awesome. We'll put those links in the show notes. And thank you for your time for a second time. We're getting this out within a couple of weeks, so it'll be fresh and people will go and say hi to you. Again, thank you so much for your time. And listeners, thank you for your time. I know that time is a non-renewable resource, and I am always grateful that you choose to spend it with me and my guests. And remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I would be so incredibly grateful if you haven't done so already, if you could leave a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Super easy if you already listen to your shows over there. But if you don't, or maybe you have the app on your phone, but you listen to the show on a different app, if you could leave a review for this show, it matters so much. I wish I could express how much it matters. I also wish that it didn't matter so much, but alas, it does. So if you haven't already, please go review and rate the show. It would mean so much to me. And thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day.